It's 4:02, so I'm going to call to order the November meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners. And Kim, could you start us with the roll call, please?
Kathleen Mills.
Here.
Ellen Rodkey. Here. Israel Herrera. Here. Jim Whitlatch.
Here.
Okay. We have all four members here. And first up, we always have the Section A, the consent calendar. So these are minutes and from the last meeting, claims submitted, business reports, credit card refunds, and then some smaller items that we have seen before or just are not of a very large amount. So do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, and roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay. That motion is carried, and then we have nothing this afternoon in public hearings and appearances, so we'll move into Section C in other business. And first up is the review of a contract with commercial service for Twin Lakes Rec Center HVAC preventative maintenance, and that's Darren Eads.
Darren Eads, Sports Facility Coordinator. You have before you this afternoon the preventive maintenance agreement for the HVAC system at the Twin Lakes Recreation Center. We received 3 quotes. Commercial come in the lowest. They're actually currently have the contract right now. They did not raise the price from 2023 into 2024, so it all stays the same. No changes to that agreement, obviously, other than dates. And we've been real happy with their service, and we just seek your approval for it.
Any questions for Darren about this first item? No? No. Okay.
I'll move to approve the contract with commercial service for Twin Lakes Recreation Center.
Second.
Okay, and a roll call vote?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thanks, Darren. And then in C2, we have another contract, this time with Baker Stonework for the Rose Hill Cemetery wall repair after the high-speed chase, right? Yes.
Yes. Good evening, Mark Maras, Operations Superintendent, and I'm here to recommend approval for a contract with Baker Stonework to repair a section of the southwest corner wall of Rose Hill Cemetery where that police chase pursued. We're going to do it in a fashion, though, that's going to create a little bit of an opening there, leaving a center column in there, so you got about a 3-foot space between each side with a 1-foot column in there. These guys have done a lot of great work for us through the years, and we're confident they'll do this job very well also.
Okay, all right. Any questions for Mark about this one?
Thanks, Mark. I'll move to approve a contract with Baker Stonework for Rose Hill Cemetery wall repair.
Second.
Okay, and a roll call vote?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Motion's carried. And then in C3, we have the contract with Ecologic for the 2024 deer browse monitoring at Griffey Lake Nature Preserve. Steve Cotter.
Thank you. Yes, we have been working with Ecologic to monitor the vegetation heights at Griffey in specific quadrats, following the deer hunts to see if it's working, and it appears that it is. The general trend is that the plants are getting taller. We have been taking deer out there since 2017, and we feel that we need to continue to allow the plants to recover to the point where they can continue to reproduce in the nature preserve. The total for the spring browse monitoring would be $6,435, and the same amount for the late summer woody monitoring for a total of $12,870.
Okay.
Has that pretty much been the consistent price for that since we've had them do it? Or has it gone up, or what's?
It's gone up a little bit. It was right around $30,000 for the first 3 years, and so we're adding a 4th year on, and it has gone up a little bit.
10,000 a year the first 3 years,
Approximately.
and now it's up to around 12,000
Yes.
a year. Okay.
I saw maybe in one of Tim's weekly reports, it was about 25 deer that were,
They did
Killed
get
so far
25
this-
deer the first weekend. Yeah, we did not close the park on Thanksgiving weekend so that people could get out there and hike, but we have one more weekend this year, and we'll see how they do.
okay.
And that's for this weekend.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the park will be closed from Friday at 11 p.m. until Monday at 5 a.m.
Okay, all right, any other questions for Steve? No, okay.
It's a good program. Thanks, Steve. I'll move to approve the contract with Ecologic for 2024 deer browse monitoring.
Second?
In a roll call vote?
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Ellen Rodkey,
Aye.
Israel Herrera, Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Motion carried, thank you, Steve. And then in C4, Tim Street will tell us about the contract with Marshall Security.
Good afternoon, Board. Tim Street, Interim Director of the Parks Department. Have a staff recommendation to approve a contract with Marshall Security LLC for 2024 security provision in an amount not to exceed $360,000 from the switchyard account and the operations account. We did run a request for proposals on this again this year, rather than just renewing, and we received 2 responses, and Marshall was the lower of the 2 responses and also ranked higher in some of the other evaluation categories. Security next year is overall very similar to what it is this year. There is a slight increase in the contract amount. The city's living wage has gone up, and as such, the wage that they're paying their officers as well has gone up accordingly. Overall, security patrols are pretty similar. One key difference is we have actually moved some funding from a 100 line to a 300 line here in the 2024 budget. So rather than hiring a few of our own parks services staff that go around at night, we are going instead to use Marshall to lock up, do a once nightly visit to a few of the restrooms that are currently being locked up by our staff, or at least were this year. So that would be Bryan Park, Winslow Sports, Alcott, and Lower Cascades Park. So this does, this is a higher contract amount, but some of those funds have just been accordingly shifted from a different category for us. Happy to answer any questions about the security.
Can you just remind me, Tim, are the bathrooms just locked? Is that a seasonal sort of thing, or is that year-round?
For the most part, seasonal.
Okay.
So yeah, most of our restrooms will open late March or probably more like April, depending on the weather, and then close down end of October, early November. We generally don't have security open them. Our custodial staff does that because if they need to be cleaned when they're open, they can do that when they open them. But we will have them lock them at the end of the night and make sure there's no one in there when they're locked for the night. Mhm. Switch, there's a couple exceptions. Switchyard is one of them. There are a few year-round. Yeah.
And I know, like, sort of privately, we've talked about the money Parks is spending on security. Do you remember off the top of your head, like, how many years that we've had to hire private security to work in this?
So 2023 was the first year where we had sort of this full size contract between Switchyard and general operations. We had a portion of that in 2022 where it was some operations and Switchyard, and then an even smaller portion at the end of 2021. So I believe the first security we hired was at Switchyard at the end of 2021. So about 3 years of sort of really using security in multiple locations at parks.
And all those 3 years with Marshall, right?
Marshall has been the service provider in each of those 3 years, correct?
Tim, the way I understand it is that in Switchyard there's somebody that's going to be there, I think, from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. Is that right? Something like that?
I believe it's 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
6 p.m.
Similar, yes.
And that's going to be one person, is that right?
Let me just verify. I believe that is correct. 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. is when there is one person at Switchyard Park.
Switchyard, and then from some 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. or something, there's two that look in the, deal with the other parks and things
Correct.
like
So,
that.
yeah, so Switchyard, we just did Switchyard, and then in Parks and Trails, we have one officer during the day patrolling around, working with our custodial staff as needed. And then that does go to 2 officers during closing hours, because we've added those other locations, and because typically we have 2 officers work together during park closing.
How good is our communication? I noticed in there it talks about them checking in at different places and having a radio or cell phone. I guess I'm a little bit worried about one person being in Switchyard by themselves at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning or whatever. Is there any reason to have, and I don't want to spend more money necessarily, but is there any reason to have more than one, or do we have a good communication system so that if that person needs help, or what, I'm just worried about them being out there by themselves.
Sure. So from a security perspective, I do know that Marshall is running security multiple places in town overnight. So they have a network of people that are on. They have a night supervisor who is not just assigned to parks, but is over their staff. And so that person does have a resource to check in with and talk to. And I don't know, maybe they sometimes come and check in. I don't know how they run that. They also have a system whereby they can do different check-in points to make sure that person is going around and checking in. So, for example, they're not just sitting in one location all night, right? Not going out and checking the locations that need to be checked. So from both of those perspectives, I think there are some safeguards in place.
Okay. I guess the only other thing I'd say is that I think I'd like to propose, and it's up to the rest of the board and others, that we maybe for a work session or our next work session, this whole issue of security and private security and what other options are there and what's the future look like be the topic of a work project for us, and security of the parks. And included in that for me is even things like what should the hours for the parks be and those types of things that we've touched on before. It's not something for a regular meeting, but I think it would be something I'd like to at least see us consider for a work session.
Sure, we could certainly do that.
On federal holidays, so Marshall is not out there on Thanksgiving. Do we just rely on like extra police coverage, or have we had any issues with holidays?
No, thus far. We have not asked them to work on a few federal holidays. And thus far, it has not created any issues. Generally, things are quieter on those certain holidays where we have asked them not to work too. And, I think from a public safety perspective, it's been okay. And obviously, the city still does have police coverage out and around on those days.
That's kind of what I figured, is that they're still around if there was an issue. But you're not broadcasting, hey, no security on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just agree with Jim. I mean, I don't have the previous year's totals in front of me, but I assume we're probably somewhere around $900,000 or more. And, that's a big chunk of money to keep spending every year on private security. So
It
I
is.
do think
It
it's something we should discuss. So, any other questions for Tim? No, okay.
I'll move to approve the contract with Marshall Security LLC for 2024.
Second.
Okay, and a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Ellen Rodkin.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, motion is carried. And then Tim will stay with us to tell us about the review of the 2024 fee schedule.
Sure. I don't have too much to say about this because we covered a lot of it last meeting. And so what we've done in the staff report is just highlighted some corrections and things that have updated or changed. There was a correction in the Banneker Center, just a typo on a line there. There's a shelter rental line that was accidentally omitted from the schedule before, so both of those are highlighted. And then the only real change is the food and beverage artisans change that was discussed at Park Board last month. We do have the upcoming master plan study that was discussed that we still very much want to use to look at the farmer's market, to look at the future of pricing, the models we use and everything like that. But we are willing to go to a flat fee per day. It's 26 or 28 with utility hookups for the sites for those food and beverage artisans for next year. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Tim?
I can't remember if we talked about this. Is there Wi-Fi? Like, do vendors use Wi-Fi to?
Someone would have to help me with
Leslie's
that. I don't know how
nodding.
far it extends. Does it? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yeah, and but we don't, that's just included in the schedule?
That's just available to the
Oh,
public
yeah,
in
it's
general,
public
I think.
Wi-Fi
Yeah.
available?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious.
Okay, any other questions for Tim?
And this is, I guess, just to be clear, this is a one-year trial on the?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. We still, like, as mentioned, the master plan coming, we want to use that to really look at a lot of things related to the market, including this pricing model.
okay.
Yeah, and I know we have heard from some shoppers and some vendors, and we just like to, that's just to emphasize what Ellen was saying about it being 1 year, because I think it would be nice to get a sense from, maybe all of the vendors about how they feel about this change, so. Any other questions for Tim, or?
No, yes, just echoing what we have said, that it should be clear that it's a trial, that there's going to be an evaluation after the year, but that is something that we are implementing with that year and not more than 1 year in the moment. So if this works, that would be reassessed, and from there, the extension or some certain changes that could apply.
Ready for a vote, or any other comments or questions? No? Okay. Do you want to move?
Yeah, Jim, you
Oh,
look
do you? No.
You're good, okay. Yes, I will move to approve the 2024 fee schedule.
Second?
And a roll call vote? Aye.
Ellen Rodkey.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Okay, that motion is carried. Thank you, Tim. And then in our reports section D, we will hear the 2023 aquatics report from Dee Tuttle.
Good afternoon, Dee Tuttle, Sports Facility Manager. Today, I will be presenting the 2023 Aquatics Report. Seems like many, many months ago. So the 2023 Aquatics Report numbers increased, and as you can see, we had 28,381 daily admissions. We had 464 season passes and 451 punch passes. Those numbers fluctuate from year to year. It's not a prediction. There's no way to predict what you're going to sell more 1 year than the next or the previous. But those are really good numbers combined together versus last year. We had several camps, and these camps are returnees, of course, from year to year. We have our Bloomington Parks camps, such as Kids City, Banneker Community Center. We have a partnership with Macam, Boys and Girls Club, the Karst Farm Day Camp, Kids Angels Day Camp, and Girls Incorporated. We had 26 private pool rentals in 2023. That was one more than in 2022. It's very average. It's a very average number from year to year. We had 1,552 swim lessons instructed, and that's 1,552 individuals that took swim lessons times, 194 participants times 8 lessons is 1,552. Each season we have several employee trainings. Some are preseason, some are during the season, many are during the season. And we also offer a junior lifeguard class, and all of our employees are first aid, CPR, and AED trained, whether they are a lifeguard or a manager or an attendant or concessions employee. Bryant Park pool revenue was up $20,000 from 2022. Some of that was due to an increase in the daily admission fee from $5 in 2022 to $6 in 2023, and we had a slight increase in our season passes and our economy passes. But basically, we just had an increase in attendance at our pool. Concessions revenue had a nice little increase of $4,000 with very little increase in cost of goods sold to our participants. Anytime that we are at 45 or above, I think that's a good number. And it also fluctuates because it's weather dependent. So, and that's as well with the revenue coming in the door at both facilities too. So while it was an increase in our revenue, it was not due to an increase in pricing. Mills Pool revenue was up about $4,000. I can dial that back down into detail that Memorial Day weekend was, for some reason, it was a very nice warm weekend, and Mills Pool numbers were just astronomical that weekend, and then it kind of decreased from there on. But Mills Pool general admissions also increased because we started selling economy passes at Mills Pool, and we sold, in addition, we had 48 season passes sold at Mills, which was a good number. Challenges that we face at both of our facilities. Both of our facilities are aging. Bryant Park Pool was built in 1959, Mills Pool in 1967. Every season we have just some astronomical mechanical repairs. Some we can predict, some we can't predict. We spent more than $20,000 in mechanical repairs this past season. The number of lifeguards continue to be a challenge. I expect that it will continue to be a challenge in the future seasons. Running both facilities requires 65 plus in numbers of lifeguards. We are open as a facility 7 days a week when we have lessons from 9 a.m. in the morning until 9 p.m. at night, 7 days a week. So it takes a lot of employees, a large number, to keep those facilities running and running properly. We are looking into cashless payment in the near future. We hope that this happens sooner than later. We employ many youth students, and so this would really benefit both of our facilities. Special thanks to our Bloomington community that attends and participates in our programs at Bryant Park Pool and Mills Pool and our swim lessons, and all of our aquatics employees that work long and hard hours during our 2023 season. We also work very closely with our operations staff during this time period, and they are critical to the success of our programs in the summer. Any questions?
No? It's great. Thanks, Dee.
What do you mean by cashless payments? Do you mean that the people that are coming in can pay with that, or what? I'm not sure what you meant by that.
Cashless means no cash, basically. So it would be a credit card, or if they didn't have a credit card, they could actually pay in cash, and we could credit them on our system. So if I were a parent and I had children, let's say, that were ages 14 and above, and I dropped them off at the pool weekly and they didn't have a credit card to get in, we actually can set in our system a credit. So when they come in, they can say, my name is Thomas Smith, I have an account, we can pull that up. Yes, you have $100 in your account, we can deduct that $6, move forward.
Sounds like.
Exactly, exactly, yeah, yes.
My other question is, what is the trajectory of community pools these days?
Many community pools are basically just shutting down. They are shutting down in Indianapolis, they're shutting down in Louisville, and some of this is because of mechanical cost, some of it is because of employee issues, and some of it is because it's easier just to hire an outside vendor to come in and run the facility. So I think that I know of those three factors, but definitely the community pools are on a decline.
No parks are building community pools
No,
anymore to
they're
speak
not.
of.
Yeah.
And, okay. Seems like there was something else I was going to ask there. Go ahead.
How does the mechanical repair bill compare to prior years? Is it about 20 every year, or?
You know, it's so unpredictable because, you know, you could have a motor go down, which is very, very costly, or you could just have some minor electrical issues, or we could have an issue with our special features or with the slides. Our slides are aging as well. So it's just really, really unpredictable to know exactly where you're at with some of those mechanical issues.
So you're saying then with like the community pool, like it's the cost that's causing folks, like for communities to shut them down, or because there's not enough demand?
I don't think it's the demand. I don't think it's the demand. I think, yes, I mean, our numbers at our pools, especially Bryan Park Pool, I mean, they're fabulous. On a great sunny day, they're great. The numbers are, you know, we're exploding at the seams. You know, and you can't predict what that revenue is going to be because it's weather dependent, like I said earlier. But I don't think it's exactly the usage. It's not the usage at our facility. That's not the issue. But I did not hear, you know, that was a point at those other facilities.
Yeah.
And the Bryan Park Pool, which I think of as my personal lap lane, I'm always like, oh, it's D. 1959, that's
Yeah.
old.
Yeah, it is. Do you remember when it actually had a cover over it at one point? Yeah.
So,
Back in
I
the
mean,
60s, I believe. I have a photo, yeah.
Wow, no, I wasn't.
Predates.
Is there a point, and Mills Pool is also pretty old, I mean, is there a point at which they would have to be, do you think, rebuilt? Or do
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Yes, yes. At some point, it will get to a point where the cost is greater than just tear down and new build. When that's going to be, we don't know. We work very closely with Spear Corporation, which is an expert in the aquatic mechanical area. They are fabulous. They're knowledgeable. They're quick. So, you know, they give us an assessment in the spring, and if we have to call them down during the season for anything, we look at things again, and then they also winterize our facilities, so we get a look at, you know, at them at the end of the season. You know, part of the problem with public pools, outside public pools, is we're open for 10 weeks, and all the mechanicals are shut down the rest of the year. And it's not something you could just go in and give it a boost in December and, you know, kind of move the parts around and make sure that they're still working. So, you know, there are some complications in the mechanical area that we have to keep close tabs on.
And I feel like, but correct me if I'm wrong, for a while, I mean, I know school's been starting earlier and earlier, which cuts into the August swim time, but
It
was
does.
there a time for a while when you were open like kind of after school for like Thursday, Friday, or?
There was, but it was before that I took over the management of both of those facilities. And Kathleen, what happens is once you reach that August, the 1st of August point when, you know, your employees are, if they're in college, they're going back to that area, and then the high school students that work for you, they're going back to school. So the availability of your employees has just scrunched down to a very small amount. So in terms of safety, safety versus the number from what I could research previously is quite is the reason why that we have gone to just Saturdays and Sundays after school starts.
That makes sense. So,
Yeah, the season really has changed since I was a kid, or, I mean, it used to be Memorial Day to Labor Day.
yeah.
And now it's Memorial Day to August 1st.
Yes.
So it really
Yeah.
is 10 weeks
Yeah,
where it
it's
used to be
It's fast
12,
and it's
14
furious, and
weeks.
it's a lot of work for a small amount of time.
yeah.
Yeah, and interestingly, it's warmer.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
like the season
Right.
at which it's warmer in the year is also longer. So if there were a way to figure out the staffing to be able to, like, I mean, it's hot in like the end
All
of
of
September,
August, right,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so,
Yeah.
like, if there was a way to try to keep it open longer, but just something to maybe look at for the future.
In the other places, you mentioned Indianapolis and some other places, right? And you mentioned that the main reason for shutting down was the administrative part and also the staff.
Yeah,
it's
staffing
something that
is
is-
difficult. It's difficult to retain staff, and there's so much training that goes into a lifeguard position that, unlike other facilities, at the beginning of the season, you are putting in many hours of training for your lifeguards to be certified. And then once you start the season, it's so fast and furious that there's really no time to add any additional employees during that time period because you just don't have the time to put into that certification.
Means that in other places, they have just changed administration from.
Yeah, so another, when a private organization or vendor would come in and manage a facility, basically they come in and they certify all the staff, they schedule all the staff, they clean the facility. From my understanding, from my knowledge and what I've researched, that private companies, they want to manage the facility. They don't want to manage and maintain the mechanicals. And we all know why that is the case.
The situation with the lifeguards here is because we don't have for every day the same amount of lifeguards, or it's difficult.
So when you're managing a staff of 65 individuals from the age of 14 to 22, they don't want to work every day and they don't want to work the same hours every week. So we use a system called When to Work, and it has the ability that all of our employees can go in and they can close out days and ask for days off. So it might mean, ideally you would want 2 shifts if you're open from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Because safety is first and foremost on our mind. Now, some days you don't have that ability to have 2 shifts, so you have to just schedule an individual from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. So at the beginning of the season, we start early in recruiting, and we try to retain from previous years. And word of mouth is how that we obtain the majority of our employees. And the last couple of years has been much better than the year after COVID. I will say that. That was really tough. So we're hoping to maintain.
So it seems that the situation now with our pools is not the attendance, it's not the attraction. Like, people are still coming to the places, but it's more the expenses in repairing mechanicals. Like, we have spent much money in short time that maybe the revenue from having people in the pools. Right?
Correct.
Is that the situation?
Our pools are still a big attraction here in Bloomington, Indiana, especially Bryant Park Pool. Like I said, it's very popular. On a given sunny 85-degree day, it's very, it's crowded. People are there, they're having fun. But where we are at with the mechanical issues at both facilities is concerning. And how concerning, I can't answer that question. but it is a concern.
Mechanicals is that we are repairing or we are replacing? Because if we have this very often, I don't know if it's because we are repairing the same device or are we buying like new things?
Sure, are we repairing or are we replacing? Well, we're doing both as we move forward. So if we can repair it and it's reasonable, we will repair it. If the repair may only allow us a life of 2 more years with something, and it costs X amount of dollars, and it costs X amount of dollars to replace, and we're going to get substantial more lifetime from the replacement, then we'll replace. So every time that in each situation, when we have to look at a mechanical repair or replace, we always look at what are we getting versus what are we getting from the repair, or does it make sense to replace cost-wise? So we always compare those two before we make a decision.
Lastly, Dee, just sounds like a kooky idea, but I did read this summer that some of the pools in New York City, they were having the lifeguard staffing challenges, so they got people out of retirement. And they, as long as they could get certified and pass the swim test, there were like
Yeah.
some 60-year-olds up there in the chair.
I'm open.
So,
I'm
okay.
open. Yeah. Just turn in an application. We'll give you a swim test.
Okay.
So maybe maybe that issue is getting better year over year now that we are
Yeah,
removed
it's
from the
a little bit better,
pandemic.
but the challenges are still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yes.
I 100% get it. There's a lot of open jobs out there, but, okay.
So, just last question. So the lifeguards right now are, the pool that we have now, they come from high school, from the community, or from the college?
Most of our lifeguards are high school students. Probably a fourth of them are college students, but they all have the same certification, and they all have the same responsibility. So, the training that goes into those lifeguards before the season starts, during the season, is enormous.
Well, Kathleen said she'll turn it
No,
in.
I know.
I'll be looking for you, Kathleen.
It's a lot of sun. Okay, thank you.
We have umbrellas.
Oh, well, okay. How much does it pay?
Doesn't pay too bad,
Oh,
actually.
yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Dee,
Thank
for
you.
that information. Yes. All right, and then finally, under our reports, Haskell will tell us about the Canopy Bloomington Youth Tree Tenders.
Good afternoon, Park Board. Haskell Smith, Urban Forester. June of this year, in partnership with Canopy Bloomington, we launched the second year of the Youth Tree Tenders program. Through hands-on experience, this program sought to continue to foster a deeper appreciation for nature and environmental stewardship with students towards their community's urban green spaces. In these 2 years, over 2/3 of all the trees planted in Switchyard Park have received some form of maintenance and care where they may have otherwise not. It's about 416 trees between the 2 years. So with me today is Ava Hart. She is the urban forester with the Canopy Bloomington. Invite her up here to say a few words. I don't know if you guys saw her excellent report.
Yeah, so I'll just be talking a little bit about the program. The nice thing is that I was in the field with the youth tree tenders every day, so I really got to see what they were seeing and experience what they were experiencing through the program. So we worked 4 hours every day for the month of June, which allowed us to get to about 200 trees for this year. And so that would be pruning the trees, mulching the trees, and then watering the trees. And so it was just a really great community building experience, because not only were the tree stewards out in the community working on urban green infrastructure, but as people were walking past us, they got to stop and ask questions and say, hey, what are you doing? And so I like the two-way street there, and then we're obviously benefiting the city trees, and then the kids are getting a great experience learning about different ways that you can be involved in urban green infrastructure, and then how they can really like get professional experience during their summer as a high school student.
Ava? Yeah.
Just want to say thanks for your continued support of the program. We hope to expand it moving forward to maybe more locations and more students.
Would be great. Yeah, thank you very much. Excellent program.
Pascal, can I ask you one quick question? Absolutely. This might be related. On my way to work every day, I pass, there's like a sign in the median on College Mall. It says like, adopt a median. Is that run through you, or is that through Public Works? Or it's, Joanna. Gotcha. Okay, yeah. I just didn't know if it was a Public Works thing, but I figured it was, since it's urban green space, yeah.
The trees are still maintained by the Urban Forestry Department.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Okay.
You should see a couple new trees, I think 5 going in on College Mall very soon.
Yeah, I knew that was kind of in the, I think we approved that. I remember approving that.
Should be happening soon.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then we will go to our Section E, public comment. So if anyone would like to speak, please come up to the podium and sign in, and Kim will keep track of our 2-minute time for us.
Hello, good afternoon, future lifeguards. I'm Eric Shedler. I'm the owner of Muddy Fork Bakery. I vended at the farmers market from 2010 to 2020, and hopefully in 2024 if I'm accepted. Otherwise, I might have to apply to be a lifeguard. I just wanted to personally thank the park staff and the commissioners for listening to feedback from vendors and customers. I'm grateful that you listened, and I'm grateful that you are here all the time stewarding our parks and our wonderful programs, including the market. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. All right. We have any other public comments or anyone online, Kim? No? Okay. All right. Well, then, in that case, we'll go back to Tim for any announcements that we need to know.
I don't have too many big announcements. As mentioned, the Griffey Deer Hunt will close Griffey Lake Nature Preserve again this weekend. Be aware of that. We will be having Winter Nights, December Lights. I always get that mixed up. I think I did it backwards again. At Switchyard Park, Saturday 4 to 8 p.m., as well as a few other holiday-related events this weekend. And our next Board of Park Commissioners meeting will be December 12th, 2 weeks from today, back here at 4 p.m. And we have a lot of agenda items to knock off before the end of the year. So we look forward to seeing everybody then.
Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
And with that, I'll adjourn the November meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners.